Bastards. Today I want to talk about one of the most important multi-tools you can put in your EDC bag, your bug-out bag, your bug-out vehicle, and it should be part of your bug-out clothing, everything. What am I talking about? What is this magical multi-tool I talk about? Is it something like a Leatherman? Nope, not this. Is it perhaps a Swiss Army knife? Nope, not that either. I'm talking about something that can have like 55 different uses. It's it's a very good multi-tool. It's versatile. What am I talking about? Well, the shemagh. What is a shemagh? A shemagh is I think it's called a Kiev of something or something in the Middle East, but most people know it as a shemagh. A shemagh is just like a cotton piece of towel, actually. But like I said, this thing has like 55 different uses. I will try to summon them one by one and give their applications in this video. So this will be a long ass video. So be prepared for that. By the magic of editing, you will see now the uses for the shemagh. Well, I can think of a first use already as a towel because I spilled some beer around here. So first use already in the pocket. Next, just where usually you forget your carrier bag for when you go to the supermarket or something, but when you always have a shemagh, you always have a supermarket bag, I would say. Just bags in general, you just put the items you want to carry on this. Then you take both sides. The first one, you knot together, just simple like that. No problem. And the second part, you also put together, just like a little rucksack. And what happens when you put the two together, you have actually two knots, like you can see, two big knots that you put on each other. And that way you have a carrier bag with knots, and because of the knots, it's thick enough that it doesn't cut in your hand. So, and as you can see, I could carry all these items just like that. It doesn't tear. Very strong material, and as you can see, it's a lot of items, to be honest. If I can, that's something you need to carry out. Watch out for that you don't put the knots too tight together because you don't want to get them loose. You don't want to get them loose afterwards. But yet again, this shows how it can be very strong. As you can see, these were all the items. Let's do it like this. These were all the items that were on it. So, very strong bag. As a self-defense weapon, it's also handy. You just take an object, like I will take this candle holder, but you can also use just a brick. You put it just in the middle, take all the corners, and now you have a swinging weapon that can do a lot of damage. I will demonstrate, perhaps you can see it. Oh. As you can see, it can hit somebody very hard. So, just a swinging heavy weight in a sack that can swing very hard. So, that's another way. So, another use is the shoulder strap for when you have a broken arm or perhaps some bruises on your arm that makes your arm not movable. So you just take your shemagh, make a little knot on two sides, and let the arm rest. It must be like a triangle where you rest the whole arm, so it doesn't move while your body moves. So that's another use for it. So in case you have a wound anywhere on your body, you can, perhaps on your leg, you can just take the tourniquet and keep holding pressure on it. The blood will even make it more, how do you say this? Not water resistant, but the blood will will make it cloth. So that's what you do when you apply pressure, because when you have here like a wound, you can keep pressure on it till the bleeding can be stopped. So that's another way. So in case of a severe bleeding on your legs, on your arm, you can apply a tourniquet. I would advise to, in most situations you will probably do this to somebody else, or somebody will do it to you. But when you can still use your arm, but you have a big cut or something, you can put it in a triangle, turn it around so you have something smaller, but yet a little bit thick. Go around your arm, make a knot, put it together as hard as you can. Now you have a knot, you put it above the wound, closer to your arm, and then you can take like a pen or something else, and you put it inside of the knot, not between the arm and the bandages, but inside of the knot, and then you can twist this around. And yeah, I know it's kind of difficult to see now, but with the fabric, you can hold it to yourself. I can feel now my veins getting a little bit clot. That means that the tourniquet is working. Oh. As you can see, I turn the pen that is inside of this a few times around. So now my artery is blocked off. I feel it knocking down here, so that means it's working. Keep turning this until the bleeding stops. And when the bleeding stops, you can bind the tourniquet. Like you can see, I left something here around, some loose. So yeah, normally it's difficult to do, but with this you can bind that together, and the tourniquet will be set in place, so you don't always have to keep your arm on it. So that's a way to apply a tourniquet to yourself. It's easier on a leg than on an arm, like you can see, but I just wanted to show you the difficult way. So if you can do that, you can do it the easy way, and you can do it to somebody else. So that's an improvised tourniquet. It's something you perhaps can save a life in a live or death situation. So during hiking, when you sprain your ankle, you might want to give it some support. So you can use the shemagh for that. First bind it around the ankle, then go around the foot and connect those two, so you can build in some support, so you don't overdo your feet, but you can still move with your feet, so it doesn't, how do you say this, it's not that immobilized that it will have bad consequences when the healing process is going on. So that's another medical appliance for the shemagh. When somebody has a sunstroke or is overheated, this is a way to keep the patient cool. You just fold the shemagh up till it's this big. You dip it in water, and when the person lies on the ground, you can moisturize the forehead to keep the patient cool. So the body temperature will be reduced. So that's another way to help with the shemagh. So another use of the shemagh, when you have a penetration by a foreign object into the skin, or through the hand or another part of the body, you will have to make sure that you will have to immobilize the object so it doesn't do more damage. So let's just for shits and giggles say I had an accident while I was opening a beer, and this got somehow stuck through the middle of my hand. Well, with a shemagh, you can go carefully around the object. Yeah, I know it's difficult with one hand, but imagine you got help from somebody else. You go around the other side, and then you go around the, how do you say this, around the body of the impaired object. As you can see, if this was in the middle of my hand, this will be very difficult to move on its own with a little movement. So of course the shemagh should be clean for when you go to the hospital. Gesundheit. And that way you can prevent further tearing or tissue damage from a foreign object that penetrated a certain part of the body. So that's another use of a shemagh. You can make this into a shoulder strap or even a little fanny pack. Just when you have some items you want to take with you. These are 2 cans and a bottle. You can just put this a little around. Take the sides as far as you can. Make a knot so you have enough room to go around your shoulder. And because you put it, you rolled it around in it, you now have an improvised shoulder backpack even perhaps. And you can even apply this to your belt, so you have some sort of fanny pack. Yeah, that doesn't go anywhere. So that's another way of the shemagh. So with the shemagh, you can also make a fanny pack. Think that you want to take this peanut butter. You just wrap it in, just like that, inside of it, and then you just put it around your body. Make just a knot, and that way you have. I forgot. Did it wrong. My excuses for that. So that way you have a fanny, if you can see it perhaps. That way you have a fanny pack where it all lays in. You have both hands free, and the weight is resting on your hips, which is perhaps better when you have to carry something larger or heavier, and you don't have to carry it with your back and your shoulders. That way you can have perhaps more weight. Perhaps you have a shoulder backpack on, and that way you can take more with you. Something like that. So a fanny pack is also a use for the shemagh. Well, this might sound funny, but in a survival situation, you can use a condom as a water, as a way to keep water. Like when you find the water, you can keep this in your first aid kit. When you find a water source, you fill up the condom, and then to protect it, you just take the shemagh as yet again, you can choose by yourself as a slinging pack. Yeah, we shall make a slinging pack out of it. Why not? Just on the end, put some knot in it. And as you can see, now I have actually a water bag in it. Just be careful that you do not puncture it, but it's a way to get some extra water on the way in an improvised way and in an emergency situation. So, and to be honest, I didn't fill the condom even to the fullest, so it can perhaps even carry more, but you have to be very careful about that before it can burst. So, an improvised bottle canteen protector because of the shemagh. So, yet again, you're cooking and your pot is overcooking, your milk is overcooking or something else, and you can't find another, you can't find the towel or your oven once. Then you always have in your trusty shemagh. Just put it around and take it away from the fire before it boils over. So, as a hand protection for grabbing hot things, it's a good alternative. So, always handy to keep this close. While cooking, or there is just a small fire that you need to extinguish, and you cannot use water. Because when you're cooking, perhaps it's oil or perhaps a chemical fire, you cannot put it out with just regular water. And if you don't have an extinguisher, fold your shemagh in two, make it wet under the sink, and put it on the burning piece. And because the shemagh will be wet, it will prevent oxygen to reach the fire. And it will prevent that unless because if you use water, the oil or the chemicals that will drift away and spread the fire. Here you extinguish it and absorb it a little bit with a wet shemagh. So as a fire extinguisher, it has some a use. Another use of shemagh is just as a ground cloth when you're like you can perhaps see when you're somewhere cozy at the fire, you can just sit Japanese style on a good piece of cloth so your clothes won't get dirty, or you can just for not for sitting in a comfortable way like this. Another way is when you have small children, you can spread this open like one of those play carpets, and your infant can play on the shemagh in a more safe manner, I would say. So that's another fun use. Another use is a head mask for when you don't want to be recognized, or when it gets really cold, and instead of a balaclava, you can take the shemagh, you put it into a triangle like it goes around your head. The shorter bit goes under the chin. You keep a hold at this, and this go around your face, around the head, and you knot the two sides together. So now you have a full face mask against cold, and you won't be recognized. But it will stand out, to be honest, in certain areas. So to avoid sunburns, you can just take a shemagh and put it around your head, so it covers a lot of your skin, especially when you're working outdoors, or you are struck. You have a car. Your car has broken down on a very hot day, and then you can just take a piece of rope, perhaps, and just tie it a little bit around so it stays on your head more easily. You can also do, like I said in the beginning, the face mask, but this is also a possibility for when your upper body, because yeah, in the when it's warm, you'll probably wear something with something more open here, and you're without sleeves. So that's a way to protect more of your skin against sunburns. So I know perhaps not fashionable, but there's a reason why people in the Middle East wear something like this in such situations. So also a possibility. In the summertime, when when it's very warm, the sun is very bright. You can use this actually to protect against sun and to cool off. How? First, you put it around your head just like this. Just nothing special about it. The sideways, a big knot behind. That way, your front head is already protected against sun, but you can also use it like I did before, the full face mask for protection against sun, and you can make this wet. You can take your water canteen and pour some water over your head, or when you find a water source, and while this will keep your head cooler, so that's a good way to keep a little bit cooler during very hot days. I probably forgot to mention it, but when you use it for protection against heat or a heat stroke, you can use this also not only protection from the sun, and not only when you make it wet for to keep a little bit cooler, but you just as a sweat rack. When you sweat, that's your body's way to say, hey, it's getting too hot in here, I'm gonna make it a little bit wet. So keeping something moist against the skin will prevent overheating. Actually, it will help cool it down. So a sweat rack while you're sweating is very handy during warm days when you have to do some outdoor work or something. So when it gets cold, but you got to be fashionably warmed, I would say, you can just yet again put it in a triangle, put it around you, and just wrap it around you. Yeah, a lot of hipsters wear this like this, so you can keep your warm up as a scarf and look fashionable in some certain places, perhaps. But that's just a way you can also use the shemagh. Another helpful thing about the shemagh is depending on what kind of color of shemagh you have in type of your surrounding, is camouflage. I know this perhaps doesn't look like camouflage, but the human eye is adapted to recognize human faces. That's why even when there is a cloud in the sky, people will perhaps recognize a human face in it, because our thinking patterns are biologically built for that. So when you cover up your face, you have less chance that people will recognize a face when you're going through the woods. Another way to camouflage with the shemagh is just take it off, and when you lay down in the grass, you can perhaps just when you lay down, this will be you will be less less chance to be seen. Imagine when there is grass around here, you'll be not noticed that fast when you have just your bare head. So that's just another way for 2 ways to camouflage yourself with a shemagh on an improvised way. Could be handy during a bug out or something. So a mask, a face mask for protection against dust, perhaps some smoke, and some perhaps sand from when you're walking around dry fields. The sand from the dirt and dried out can jump up. So again, you put it in a triangle, and you go as much layers as you can. Go around your head, and just tie it together. Why do I say as much layers as you can? So you have more fabric to protect your inhalement against dust, smoke. In case of smoke, I would suggest to make it wet so it can get a little bit neutralized. So, and in the worst case scenario, you can do like in World War I, when there is a chemical gas attack. You can, in case of chlorine gas attack, you can urinate on this. Why? So the ammoniac will neutralize the gas, the chlorine gas, before it will reach your inhalement. So that's another use of this. Another use is as a replacement for when you lost your shoe. I will show you. You put it like yet again in a triangle. Put your foot on top of it. You take the sides and you turn it around one time and carry and bind those two together, and you have another one, and that will also go around and you tie those together. Now you have like an improvised sock, if you can see, but you cannot walk with this just like that. This is handy for in the house perhaps, but when you want to make an improvised shoe, you just take some plastic. You can just a plastic bag you can find on the road, put it around your shoe and tie that together. And because of the shemagh, you got a warm improvised shoe for on the way when you lose your shoe or it gets shredded. In case when you're it's very cold and you don't have any gloves, you can make this into an improvised hand warmer. So you do it like a towel, then you go around it with your hands. Oh. And you will make it go round, and there you have. Now you have an improvised hand warmer. You don't have your both hands free, but that's better than you're getting your fingers frozen off. So, and in case for something fast, you can just put it down on the side and put them back in. So for frozen against frozen fingers, you can use this this way. So when you're in an emergency situation and you have not much to keep you warm, or you can use this as an additional layer of warmth. It's just you can just sit and use it as a small blanket. It doesn't do much perhaps, but at least it can keep some warmth in. Gives a basic layer of warmth to keep your body heat a little bit up, or you can use it as an extra layer for other things that you can perhaps find in emergency situation. So all the bits help when it gets cold. So imagine you have to wait for a train that you missed or it's running late, and you just want to take a little nap on the hard bench or somewhere else where you need to sleep on an improvised way. So that way you can fold this up till you get a small pillow, and that's for many people can help with supporting their neck, or perhaps on the back of the head it's a little bit higher. So that's just another useful way for the shemagh. So when you want some good sleep, or should I, during hiking, waiting at a station, on the plane, or somewhere else, and you're sensitive for light during sleep, especially during the day, you can just take the shemagh and use it to as a night shade, just to get some shut eye without being bothered by the light. Can be a good help for some people who have trouble sleeping. So uh, in places where there is a lot of light reflection, like in the mountains where it snows on the above the Arctic circle where the sun is in a low angle. Perhaps in Australia the same thing. You don't have sunglasses, but you have very sensitive eyes, and you don't want to ruin them, especially not when you're dealing with snow, because that can lead to how do you say this? Snow blindness. So what you can do, you take your shemagh, put it around your head. You bind it just like with the night sheets for when you have troubling sleeping. Oh, it's a little bit difficult with the tie it, and then you tear open two cracks, so you have a very small opening to let sunlight go through. It can help so by making your eyes dark, so there even those reflections don't reflect back inside of the shades. This is a technique that the Inuit use. They use or in desert areas where they take a little piece of wood and cut out two very narrow slits, so the sun will not get through it. It's just like those little see-through boxes when you want to see a solar eclipse. So that's just the same principle, but with a shemagh. So another use, I will do it inside because I only got this idea when I done the other videos with the green shemagh. So I'll use my other shemagh for this. When you're out in nature or just at home doing some repairs or something, and you cannot leave something on the ground because perhaps some insects, rodents will eat from it during camping or something, you can knot two sides together, the other side together, put whatever in you want to put in, and just hang it on a branch or something, and that way animals will not reach the perhaps some food that you're having laying around, or some things you don't want to get wet by laying it on the ground. So that's just another way, just like a carrier bag, but with two knots with two opposite sides. Just a little fun idea. So, if you can perhaps see, these three wooden sticks that you can perhaps find. It can be sticks, it can be at a construction site. You can put the three together above, like you can see, to make a cooking triangle where you can hang a pot on. If you don't have rope, you can still rip some of the pieces of cloth from the shemagh and hang it up. So you have an improvised triangle to to cook on some fire without burning the pot, to say. So that's another use of it. So I've been rubbing the shemagh around the grass. It's night, so there is now dew on the grass, and this way you can get clean drinking water. Of course, on the condition you have a clean shemagh, and you didn't roll into some feces or some other dirt that is around the grass here. I've been rubbing this a few minutes right now, especially on the taller side. I don't rub it above the ground. So yeah, I already got some grass around this. So let's see how much we can squeeze out of it. So a few, perhaps I will keep it out, chew it. So it is just from rubbing this whole area of full wet grass. So that way you can get potable water. That way, so shemagh is one of the best things for this in an emergency situation where water is not is very scarce. But be aware that perhaps the grass is not always full of dew, like in during droughts or something. So watch out for that. So when you go hiking, there can be a problem because first of all, you don't want bugs to go in to the inside of your pants and go into your feet, like ticks and other leaching parasites. So to counter that a little bit, you can take the shemagh and use it as a sort of foot cover. Just put it around your shoe and the underside of your pants pipe, I think it's the English name, and that way you have an improvised foot wrap that will prevent that bugs and other ticks or something get easily access to the skin of your leg. So that's a good way. Another use of this is actually to collect dew. When you're hiking and you're walking through high grass, you will walk alongside the grass. The shemagh will take up the dew as moist, and when you're done hiking, you can take this off, and the dew you collected during walking, you can wring it out and use it for drink water, or on the condition that it's clean, that you walk to clean environments, and you can use it to collect water that way, especially in the morning. So another use for the shemagh. So in case you want to have potable water for cooking, for drinking, or for cleaning, for like medical issues, I would suggest you can do this when you have a way to boil water, but there is too much dirt in it, like mud or other things that might get dirt. So you just take your shemagh, you fold it up in multiple ways, so you have more layers of a cloth that can catch some of the dirty particles. So you put it above the container you want to put it in. You make a little how do you say this? A little pit inside of it, and then let's pretend this is the dirty water. You just carefully, if you do it, don't do it too fast, because otherwise it will fall next to it, or it will get absorbed by the cloth, and then the water will go all around it, and even some dirty particles. So just filter it, like it's just an improvised filter to get the dirty particles out, but you still have to boil the water because those might have some pathogens like bacteria or viruses, but at least you don't have mud, sand, or other bigger dirty particles in your water that you're about to boil. So that's another use of the shemagh. So this is another improvised way to filter water. I mean the bigger particles and not the pathogens. But as you can see, this is a pot that contains water that is, let's say this is the dirty water. This is a container where I want some filtered water in. You put your shemagh, you put the dirty water a little bit higher. Then you put the shemagh in the dirty water and you make a loop. You try to string it so it goes inside of the container you want to clean, not to clean, but the filtered water in. And you make sure it doesn't reach the, how do you say this? The edge of the dirty water container, because what will happen? The dry cloth will absorb the water, and the dirty water will be like, like cohesion, will pulled above, and it will go. It will almost make this wet, and it will like fall. It's like, that effect when you try to siphon gas out of a car. That's the same principle, but it's working on cohesion, that the water will be pulled by the dry cloth around, and it will make like a chain reaction where the water will go into the container. It's a long process, but it's just a fun little piece of knowledge if you have patience. So that's another use. So another use for a shemagh is a carrier sling for holding an infant. I mean, a small baby. Yeah, perhaps sounds weird, but people in primitive tribes and all around the world use it exact the same way. Let's pretend that this bag of rice, it's 5 kilos, is my baby. Come here, you little bastard. Well, just the same thing. You put just like a carrier bag. You put you make sure that the ends will be strong because you don't want to drop your baby. Can be handy in a survival situation where you need to have your hands free and carry your child at the same time. So you can just perhaps carry your little darling around. You have both hands free, and in the way that the baby will probably sitting is with a bend, which is a natural position for them to pacify them. So it's just an improvised baby carrier. So another use for the shemagh. So I'll have to feed my little bastard of a bag of rice. So another way this it can help when your shemagh is very colorful, like orange or red or something. That's some color that you can see from distance away that you can wave for help or something. But even when it's camouflaged, which I prefer, but to draw attention from rescue groups or perhaps some people you want to signal for help, you can take a branch, knot each side of the shemagh to a certain length of the pole, and then you can make a big flag with it to draw some attention. And yeah, perhaps sounds stupid, but hey, fuck it, just for shits and giggles. When you have a mad bull and you have to throw it, it's a myth. It's a myth that only red makes a bull mad. It's just the movement of the how do you say this? Of the mat they're swinging it. So when you want to do some tornado with bulls, also, but I would not recommend it. So this is another way for the shemagh when you apprehend a person who is perhaps drunk or danger for himself or other people around him, or perhaps you tackle the spree killer and you disarmed him, or whatever. You want somebody tied up because he's a danger to himself or other people. You can use the shemagh as to tie the hands. It will not look as impressive because I did this on my own in my basement, so it's better that I can get out of it. But what you do is, perhaps you can see it, you go around each hand, you make a knot, you go around the other hand, make a knot, and then those knots you bind in the middle, you go around it and make another knot. So those are 3 knots that a person might have to get out of here, and it will be especially difficult when they are bounded on their back, with their hands on their back, so they cannot see where the knot exactly is. That's another use of a shemagh to apprehend someone who is a danger. So another use is concealment. Perhaps during a bug out, you want to, for safety and self-protection or for hunting, you want to take a rifle or a bow or perhaps a sword, I don't know. Taking with you something long and that is forbidden. You don't want, during a bug out or an evacuation, that, even though you do something illegal, you don't want police or some, how do you say this, police and other local authorities don't want to see you with a rifle or something dangerous or illegal. So a shemagh, you can conceal these things. You can just wear this just unspeakable, how do you say this, just like something that doesn't, if you make it a little bit loose, it will even not give away the silhouette of a rifle. But when you're done, when you need to use it and you can take off the concealment, you can just take it off, and then you can use the whatever illegal long weapon you brought on with you without drawing bad attention to you. So that's another way for the shemagh to conceal some bigger objects. And it's not only for when you have something forbidden, but also when you are on the run and you don't want to show people that you perhaps have a bag of extra food or something. That way you can conceal that too. People will think you have something, but they will not know what you have. So another use for the shemagh is when you like to go to a shooting range that is outdoors, or you have to I don't know, hunt or shoot again outdoors or during a bug out or whatever situation. What could happen is the ground can be dusty. So when you fire a shot, you don't want by the blast of the muzzle that the dust particles will fly around. So in that case, you can lay your shemagh somewhere around the muzzle flash, and you can shoot without the particles going all around. It's a little protection, and it will make you less visible to whatever game you're shooting at. So another use of the shemagh is when you're at a firing range, you have something nice to lay on to get you not dirty. And the second part is when you're shooting and you shoot and your cartridge falls out, your cartridge will fall on the shemagh, and when you're done shooting, all you have to do is just take the corners of the shemagh and you'll have your bullets, your shemagh, the cartridges, all mostly on the shemagh. So you don't have to get around and pick up the spent shell cases of the ammunition you fired. So that's another use. In emergency situation, another use for the shemagh is to make it, to use it as a tunnel. You can use, you can rip some pieces of it and turn it into charcoal for later tunnel that will burn easier in a survival situation. But another way to make tunnel is by using shavings of the shemagh. Perhaps if you can see it, I already did some. You can see, it will ruin the shemagh, but when you need to make a fire in an emergency situation, this can be used. You just make shavings, and if you can see, it's like the flint you find in your belly button, as you can see it. And those shavings you can get off the shemagh and try to make for starting a fire. You can also use the same thing with just pants, with your pants or some other clothing. But this is a video about the shemagh, so this is also a useful way for the shemagh. So, when you need a light or to make an improvised lamp, you can find certain things just random. You can find a fuel source like cooking oil or something. You can find a jar, make a hole within it, and you use the shemagh, a piece of the shemagh, as a wick to make like this an improvised candle. So another possible use during an emergency situation. During a survival situation, it can happen that after wandering a week or perhaps longer in the woods, you will lose a lot of weight, and you don't want your pants to fall off during that period. When you lose a lot of weight during an emergency situation, when you're looking for rescue or something else, that's when you get the shemagh and you just roll it up as tight as you can, and that way you perhaps can see just can go through all the little vents. I'm only going to use 3 now, just because time delay. And you go through the other, and that way you can knot them together as tight as you want, and that way you have an improvised belt for when you lose too much weight, or your pants are too big, or your belt is because it's used for something else because of the leather or something. It doesn't have to be specific to be used that way. You can just put it around the pants. You put a little bit of the pants above, and that way it can also hold up the pants. If you just want to do some hilly-billy style, I would suggest just take one side, make it count, make a knot. The other one is to use on the other side, make a knot. And now you have an improvised, if you perhaps can see, an improvised, how do you call this? Bretelle, we call them, but you know what I mean, something to keep your pants up and it goes around your shoulder. So That's another use for this shemagh in an emergency situation. Another use of the shemagh is as a fishing net. You can take two poles and bind it together to make an improvised fishing net to scoop out rivers with a low depth. I improvised a fishing net with two of my crutches. So you can see, you can make an improvised net and you can go into the water and scoop. The water will go through the loose fabric of the shemagh, but the fish will be caught in the improvised net. Like you can see, it's a little bit net-like when you try to scoop it through the river. So, another use for the shemagh for fishing. So, sometimes when you're at work or doing some repairs at home, or just your car breaks down and you need to do some work underneath and you have to work on your knees, I would suggest a shemagh can be very handy for that. You just fold it up as thick as you can on the width of your knees, and you can use it as an improvised knee pad to protect your knees. Even in the wild, when you're doing a chore like making a fire, and you don't want to hurt your knees by when you're starting to get a tunnel on, just an improvised knee pad, very excellent way to keep your knees together in any situation actually. When you're going hiking and it's too warm and you need to cool off, but we all know when we go hiking on a very hot day, it gets bloody warm in the tent. So perhaps a way to counter that in a way is to take the shemagh, make it wet, and hang it on the entrance of the tent. What will happen? The wind the little wind that there is, even when it's warm, will blow against the shemagh, which is wet, and that works in a way as an air conditioning. The wind will evaporate the water, and that cooled air can penetrate the shemagh and blow into the tent. I don't say this always will work, but if you when the conditions are good, this is a way to cool the inside of your tent. So that's another use for during hiking in hot days. When you walk through the forest and you perhaps are lost, or you just you fear that you're going to be lost, you can take some can rip some pieces of cloth of the shemagh and bind those around a tree. So in that way, when you perhaps want to go back to an earlier point that you know that will help, but you got lost further on the way, you can recognize those markings and find your way back to a familiar point for in case when you get lost. And it is also handy when you're lost and a search party is looking for you. They can follow the piece of trails that you leave behind by binding pieces of the shemagh that you ripped off around trees, and they can follow the direction that you went. So that's a way to save your life when you're lost. Another use that not many people think about, but imagine when you're stuck when you're in a train and the train makes some weird speed, or there are some troubles like the rails are acting funny. You don't want to be sitting loose in the train. So what you can do when you have one of those in the trains or metros or whatever else, one of those poles, you can take your shemagh, go around the pole and bind yourself stuck to the pole. So in case when the train suddenly stops or hits something, that you don't get fly away. So this is like an improvised seatbelt is perhaps the best way to call this. So shemagh is also an improvised seatbelt in case. So during a killing spree or a terrorist attack, if you want to lock someone out or block an exit for the spree killer so you can escape perhaps, this is a certain way. What you do is, first, above, you make a thick knot with your shemagh, put it around the door and close the door. Now the knot is stuck on the other side, and you leave enough room so you can wind the end of the shemagh Few times, of course you hold the handle above, a few times around, make a knot, and that way you actually locked off the door without using a key. As you can see, it's a little bit hard to block it. That's why you will always have to firmly pull it while you're doing it around. So because the fabric can perhaps give a little bit, but perhaps this will buy you some time till the police arrive and stop a spree killer or a terrorist. So that's another use for the shemagh as a door stopper. Oh no, to close off a door. Another variant of blocking a door with a shemagh is I put this for the to present it, but usually it's the other side. You bind the shemagh to the door handle, and imagine if this is a pushing door, you bind it to an object. In this case, let's pretend that this is a heavy closet. You can tie it to a chair or some solid object, and then when the guy tries to pull from the other side, it will get stopped to a way, and that can hold perhaps a spree killer or a terrorist a few minutes. It will slow him down for a few minutes, perhaps. So another use is when you have to escape through a window. You don't want to use your bare knuckles or even your elbow. You would sure use your elbow because that's the hardest part of your body to smack through a window. But there is a chance that you get cut by the glass with retrieving. With this, what do? You bind the shemagh around your elbow, and then you crack open the glass with less risk to get cut because of the broken pieces. So another use perhaps is when you need to grab something that is out of reach, because we all know that one scene from many movies, like they try to grab the keys, so they bind a hook to a piece of cloth, throw it, and try to drag it to them. The same thing, it doesn't have to be dramatic, like you can just drop your keys into a pit, in a pit or a place where you cannot easily reach. So you can take the shemagh, bind it to something like your Swiss Army knife, and my keys are down there, so I'm going to try to fish them, if it works. Yeah. Oh no, almost. Yeah. Oh. And I fished my keys from the ground. So if it's been in a sewer pit or just a lower area where you cannot reach, that is a way to get some items back that you can perhaps use as an improvised fishing hook. You can perhaps even throw it like in the movies, like I said, but it's more, this will be more happening. So that's also a use for the shemagh. So another perhaps stupid use, but it's a use. When you go camping and you want to hang a light on how do you say this, on a branch, you can knot it on the shemagh and choose the height on which you want the lamp to hang while you're in front of your tent or other place where you stop hiking. So that's another way for the shemagh to be useful. Another way, I forgot about the lamp, but it's a notable one in case you ever need to signal for help over a longer distance to make you more visible. At night, you take a lamp, a cam light, perhaps even your cell phone if you can attach to it, and I will take out the light. You take it, and you can swing it around, and that way you create more. I'll put the light on. That way you create a more visible light, and that will draw attention from rescue crews or people that you seek to draw their attention. Perhaps in the forest, at sea, from far away, you never know. So that's another use for the shemagh. So there is another use for the shemagh that I like to share, and that's a technique to move a wounded person while staying low on the ground. How? Perhaps there is a shootout. It's a war, terrorist attack, whatever. But you have low cover, and you want to drag a wounded person into safety. What do? Well, you cannot even not get a little bit higher up, because that will expose you to perhaps grenade fire, shrapnel, bullets, whatever. In that case, you can take the shemagh, put it around you, put it around the wounded person. The wounded person is here underneath you. You nod it, and then you, as slow as you can, you crawl over the ground as slow as you can, and drag the wounded person with you while staying low for cover. That's also perhaps a way to get past the window where somebody's firing out of without being noticed when you drag a wounded person. So that's just another way to use a shemagh and help another person in need. This is perhaps a little bit controversial, but when there is an aggressor or a spree killer or terrorist around and he didn't notice you and you want to take him out, you can turn this into a garrote. What is a garrote? It's actually a piece of cloth that you try to make as thin as possible. Put it around your hands so it can get away. Go around the person's neck and you can cross it and pulling it till the person is choked out. I know it's not legal or perhaps even self-defense in a way, but if you want to prevent casualties, sometimes you need to be do a preemptive strike to make sure that other people don't get wounded or attacked. Another use is when you're in a building during a bug out or something, an abandoned building, and you don't want that people from outside know that you're there. You can block off the windows by taking the shemagh and put it like around light sources or perhaps the window, and that way you can block sight and perhaps a little bit light, so you won't be noticed that fast. So that's another application for a shemagh during a bug out in an abandoned building or something. During hiking, when you are trying to make a fire, it can be sometimes very hard because perhaps there's no cover, or it's hard to build a cover for against wind, and that will decrease the chance that your fire will stay on or will be made. So what you do, you take the shemagh, you stick 2 poles in the ground that you find, and you make the shemagh go around the poles, so you have a little wind barrier to ensure that you have more chance to make a fire that way, because the wind will not blow the tunnel away. So that's another thing to do with the shemagh while you're hiking. Just as a regular towel after cleaning your hands or just washing up near a river, you can just use it as a towel, just simple like that. Always handy. Yet again, might sound stupid, but it's a possibility that can happen. You rupture your pants get stolen by any means, or your pants are wet and you need to dry them first, but you don't want to be naked. Just put it around you and your nakedness will be covered. You can even apply this when your girlfriend has some lost the above side. You can just use it as a bust holder, or just as something to cover up the nakedness. So that's just another perhaps stupid way, but possible way to help with the shemagh. This might sound like grasping at straws at finding applications, but in a survival situation, I would consider this very important. When you're walking through rubble, forest, or whatever, glasses. When you're a person with bad eyesight, it's very important to always be alert of your surroundings. So a shemagh can be very handy to clean those glasses, so you can and keep alert and a good sight in your surrounding or to what's happening. Very important during any survival situation where you might be impaired by bad eyesight. So those were the 55 uses for the shemagh. I know it's been a long ass video, but like I said, it has many uses. So I hope you learned something, you got some ideas, perhaps you got some ways to make your bug out bag or EDC lighter, because you now have had perhaps some insight on how to use this for other purposes. Yeah, thank you for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment if I forgot another thing in this video. I hope not, but I'm always willing to learn. Subscribe, all that good stuff. So, thank you for watching. Cheers, and see you in the next video.